Hi and welcome to this week's Walk the Wu Wei. Today we are talking all about how to deal with negative people. So if you have any difficult people who are acting challenging or difficult in your life and you're complaining that these people are draining me of my energy, they're triggering me, so I'm getting all het up, or these people are like energy vampires and I'm a victim of them, we're going to share with you some simple and practical tips how you can remain calm, authentic, and in control of the situation and how you deal with these people. So it's all about how to find the harmonious Wu Wei balance if you're dealing with any challenges with people, whether it's in your family, friends, at work, or colleagues, anyone who you may encounter in your life. So our teaching really is the solution is it's about you, not them.
I think that's the basis of all our Wu Wei teachings, isn't it? You can't control other people, and you shouldn't try, but you can control yourself.
Yeah.
And this is what I liked about this subject, because it kind of encapsulates all of the Wu Wei teachings and it brings it down into one point. So in this discussion, we'll be talking about a lot of the things that we have been talking about in other videos.
And so the essence really is the solution of how you effectively deal with negative people is within your control. Yes. And it's about how you manage your mindset and control or disengage the human-centered mind, as we call it, or the ego, so that you can find the harmonious balance when you're interacting with these people.
And they're difficult. It's a difficult situation. It's this isn't easy when you're meeting a family member or a close friend or a colleague at work, and all they're saying is looking at negative aspects about the situation at hand, or negative aspects about you. This is not easy, and this is why you can draw on all of the things that we share with you, such as CCJ: do not compare, do not criticize, do not be judgmental. So during this video, we'll be able to touch on all of those points.
And so we're going to go through lots of examples, offer practical solutions. So please do stay right to the end of the video.
Stay with us
to get the most value. So in terms of, to begin with, let's talk about one of the main things when we almost think about this, any particular individual who we're classing as negative, or, often the words we use to describe that person and how they act, the language we use, whether we verbalize it or it's just in our self-talk, how we perceive them, that can be the first problem we create for ourselves in terms of engaging the ego, engaging the human-centered mind, and almost getting off on the wrong foot with dealing authentically with a person.
I would think, and this is why I said, what we're talking about here is the basis of all of the work, because the words you use are the bricks that build the house that you live in. So you've got to be very careful of using the right words. Even Alex and I have talked just before we started to get the wording right. And so you have to be careful. I would not call them negative people, you see. I would say they are actually beautiful people who are using negative words and negative ideas. Because in my experience, that's what's happened to them in their childhood. Unfortunately, this is something that's happened to them previously, and they've almost adopted that way of thinking. As Alex said at the beginning, it's almost like a mindset. And I quite like that word, mindset. Your mind is set. And the whole idea of Wu Wei and looking at things differently is to change the mind, is to give you the power, to give you the control to change your mindset.
So, because a lot of people quite rightly say, oh, so-and-so is really negative, or they, like such a toxic person in my life.
I hate that's a terrible word.
People say that person's like an energy vampire. They just completely sap me of anything positive. I guess if you believe that, and if you keep telling yourself that, that creates almost like a battle with the other individual, or it creates your human-centered mind is telling you, well, I need to protect myself from this person. This person is attacking me with their negativity. But that's a false perception.
And that's why those words are very important, because right away, when you use words like they are a vampire, or they are attacking me, or I need to be protected, I have to build a wall, they can harm me, I can be harmed, I'm vulnerable, all these things, what you're doing is you're putting space between them and you're building a wall. Now, for some friends who you don't need to be in their life and they don't need to be in your life, that should be all right. But how about if it's your father or your mother or your brother or your sister, someone that you are sharing a life journey with? Putting those barriers up is not going to help you, certainly not going to help them, but it's not going to help you because you can't address the situation correctly, because the labels you're putting on them at the beginning is the incorrect label. You're starting off on the wrong foot. Your energy flow isn't correct.
And would you say by giving it a label, a fixed label, it cements the situation in an unfortunate way? Because what we're trying to do here is find that harmonious flow around, say, I mean, if they're talking negatively about stuff, that's kind of very yang, isn't it? If you fix that person and say, this is who they are, this is what they like, they're always like this, they're toxic, etc., that then stops the energy flow. And what we're looking for here is to try and create a smoothing of the energy flow so that, you know, it's not about changing the other person, but it's about, you know, I guess when you use the analogy, the boulder and the stream, if that person for that moment, in terms of what they're saying to you or how they're acting with you, is the kind of fixed, rigid boulder, they've got a very fixed, rigid opinion, which might go against what you believe. So it's about learning the flow around them, learning to flow with them and the situation rather than putting up more yang.
Yeah, I think that your explanation there is right. I think if you give them a negative label yourself, if you say they are toxic, they are against me, all they want to do is pull me down, it's very difficult for you to find a path through, because you're almost like setting the battleground. You're digging the trenches and you're going to be hurling some hand grenades at each other pretty soon and fighting each other. And as I said, if this is a family member or a close colleague at work, this is not going to work. This is going to give you as much grief. It's almost like you are creating your own grief. That's why using those labels, using those words, really look at them. Do you actually believe that someone is toxic? Do you believe that they wake up in the morning and think, whoa, good, now how can I be toxic today? They're not doing that. They normally hurt people. They normally have got deep emotional problems themselves that they can't resolve. And they've received it in their childhood, and all they're doing is passing it on. It's your job is not to receive it. Remember, what other people think of you is none of your business. And you have to be in control of you. And this is why we started off. This is a great opportunity to hone your spiritual skills. This is why I think this is more spiritual, because this is more about you. You nurturing yourself. You
having self-respect.
Absolutely holding yourself. It doesn't matter what other people say about you. If it's a family member, of course you have to try and find a relationship. But if they're having great difficulties, that's going to be a great challenge. It's a good job you're sensitive. Remember, we did a video on sensitive. It's a good job you're sensitive. I would say be more careful on using more sensitive, correct wording.
Okay.
As you address them, as you think about them, use your words much more with kindness, with carefulness, with a little bit of compassion for yourself and for them. So,
in terms of how we view them, if we don't view them as negative people, we don't view them as toxic people, or we don't view them as energy vampires, how do we view them? Do we see the wholeness of their energy, the oneness of their energy, and that, I suppose,
can I tell you how I would see them? I see them as unbalanced. Beautiful people, divine, authentic, truthful, But at the moment, as they're speaking to me, they are unbalanced. So I accept, here's a big word, I accept that in my view, that they are unbalanced, and then I try and find out, because I could be wrong. I could be unbalanced, you see, and I'd be quite happy to do that. So when somebody comes with an unbalanced point of view or a belief system, I'm very interested in why they believe that. Why do they want to say, oh, it'll always work out wrong. Oh, it's not worth doing that. Oh, you know, you should be slimmer, fatter, you eat too much, you don't eat enough, whatever it is. They're entitled to their point of view. But I would want to ask them, if we're in this relationship, a golden thread question. Oh, so why do you think that? So why do you believe that? Not stop seeing them as the negative person, that sees them as the whole, the oneness, and you trying to understand why what they're telling you is, in your view, unbalanced. Remember, you could be wrong. You could be the one unbalanced. This is why I'm always saying to you in these videos, please write down below your point of view. I'm happy to learn off you. So be more open, be more flexible, as Alex says. Be more, easy. Don't be so judgmental, and don't say, oh, I think they're negative, toxic. They're vampires, because that starts you off on the wrong foot.
So with negative people in general, people who are always seeing the downside of everything, always complaining about things, they'll have 10 great things happen to them, but they'll only focus on the one bad thing that happened to them. So it's some kind of a pervasive way of they are, the way they talk, the things they focus on. A lot of people will say,
I meet them a lot.
Being with that person, whether it's a family member, a friend, or a work colleague, really kind of puts a downer on me. I understand what you're saying. Like, it's about me taking control of me.
Yes.
I shouldn't label them.
Well, don't label them.
Yeah, don't label them.
Don't label them.
You're saying understand that person for the wholeness of who they are. But I guess using the energy pendulum analogy, which we've talked about before, we talked about it in our last video, and I'll put a link to it. In terms of how I react to that negative person, or that, person who's constantly talking negative, one extreme reaction is basically to do nothing, can be like almost like a doormat, and let them talk at me all the time and tell me all their negative stories and negative spin on things. Now, I understand that's not a good way to be. The other extreme, I guess, which a lot of people would do, including myself, is to almost just want to cut all ties with the person, just avoid them at all costs, because I know I jump to the conclusion that no good is going to come out of it. So that's one extreme action. The other extreme action on this end of the pendulum would be to try and change that person, to try and make them see the better of the way, try and force my opinion on them. So I understand that both of those actions on my part, do nothing or do too much, are the extremes. What then is the Wu Wei, the middle way?
So that was really interesting. Hearing that was very well explained. Thank you. Because I'm sitting here thinking, crikey, I wouldn't think like that at all. This is how I would think. Why is that person who is saying these unbalanced things affecting me so much? That's what I would say. So if they want to live their life unbalanced and have unbalanced negative ideas and ways of seeing this immense, beautiful universe that we live in, why would that affect me so much? Why am I allowing their views, their point of views, their opinions, their mindsets to affect me? Surely I am responsible for me. So when you were saying that swinging pendulum, I wouldn't even think about the extremes. I would just be listening to the person, being very interested, and if they were saying, oh, we're all doomed, if we're all doomed, it's all going to end badly, I'd be saying, oh, why do you think that?
But David, it's no fun, it's no pleasure listening to negativity all the time. Now, I guess you could say, well, that person just wants to offload. Let them offload on me. That might make them feel better. But is that not letting them indulge their negativity?
No, because if you don't want them to unload, I would say to you, well, it seems to me right now you're in a very negative state of mind. So I'll tell you what, I'll leave you in that state of mind. I'm just going to go and have a cup of tea and I'll have a chat with you later. So I would take control. You don't have to be involved, but you don't also have to think negatively. I would say to them, look, you know, you're much better to sit that. If you don't think, sit with it for a bit and let me go and have a walk. I'll take the dog out and I'll come back and we can have a talk later. So I'm in control of me, and this is the basic. Again, this is spirituality. I am in control of me. That person is not in control of me. To be honest, I don't think the word that come to mind, feel sorry. I don't feel sorry for them. But I tell you one thing, I'm glad I'm not them. I'm glad I'm not sitting in that mire of poor me and, oh, I can't cope and the world's against me and my life's not worth living and what's it all for? I go, thank goodness, I don't think like that. But I know unless they ask me, it's like my clients, I can't help them unless they ask me. I can give them a different perception of the world, and they're quite willing to challenge why I think that way. But I can't change their perception. That's not my job. Now, if they're drowning in a mire of something, I don't have to jump in with them. I can say, okay, well, I can help you out. And if they don't want to be helped out, I can say, well, I'll go and walk the dog and you can have a float around in this stuff for a while.
But I think for some people, if I said to someone who was being negative and they didn't actually even realize, you see, I think sometimes people who are just generally negative don't even realize they're being negative. They see that as the kind of neutral starting position for everything. So if I turn around to someone and say, well, I tell you what, you're being a bit negative at the moment. I'll go and walk the dog.
I think
that would really antagonize them though.
Well, I wouldn't. Well, I can't see how. If I said to somebody, in my opinion, you're a little bit negative about this situation.
But you've got a negative perspective. So
on this situation.
So you're not being personal about them.
That's what I said.
Okay.
I mean, you're not saying you're a negative person. You're saying this position, we can't have a discussion on this because you're not prepared to listen to my point of view.
Yeah.
So if somebody's not prepared to have a discussion, have a debate, you can't have a debate with them. So if they go, no, you're talking rubbish, the world's crap, we're all going to end soon and we're all going to go down. You know, what can you say? You can say, well, I have a different opinion on that. Yeah. And they go, well, I'm not interested in your opinion because you don't know what you're talking about. Okay. I'd say, oh, okay, then, well, I'll go and walk the dog and we can have a cup of tea later. I wouldn't get involved unless they can, if they can talk. I tell you who was the best one for this was my mum. God rest her soul. You'd phone her up and she'd say, "Oh, you're phoning me, have you? I thought you'd forgotten about me." "Mum, I only phoned you like yesterday." "Oh, yeah, well, that was yesterday. A lot could have happened." And I used to go, yes, Mum, I love you, Mum, yes, Mum. But all that negativity she was saying to me, I didn't take it on board.
So you're
I didn't
internally disengage, would you say, or step back?
Well,
what's the process going on inside you?
I think in that process, I love my mum. My mum was the most negative person you'd ever wish to meet, but she was lovely, and that was her point of view. And in a way, I tried my best to help her, and sometimes she would listen to me, and we would have a talk. But you know, sometimes she wouldn't. She would just see the bad in everyone and everything. And you can't, it's not my job to change her unless she says, "What do you think about this, David? This is my point of view." And so, but that didn't stop me from loving my mum and respecting my mum and having care for my mum and doing the best that I could for my mum. But that also means that I don't listen to every word she says and take it on board as truth, because it's her opinion. Being a mother or a father doesn't make you correct in every situation. She's got an opinion. I've got a different opinion. I'm happy to speak to her about it. If she doesn't want to hear it, then I just let her spout off because I respect her and love her. But I'm not going to let it affect my life. I can remember. I can, this is how old I am. When I had hair and my hair first touched my collar in the Beatles time, my mum went crazy. Oh my goodness, look at you, they'll think you're a girl and all like that. You know what? That's just her perception. I didn't let it affect me. Mm-hmm. I took it on board. I see if there was any evidence there, because at the basis of what we're talking about, you are responsible for your life. Yeah. You can take kind of reference. You can take reference from what we're talking, what we're sharing with you. You can listen to me now and you can say, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Or you can say, oh, that was a good point. That's why I say write it down. If you think I'm talking rubbish, write it down. Okay. If you think, for instance, everything your parents say to you, you should follow, I disagree with you. Absolutely.
Would you say that if you are getting triggered or strongly affected,
it's about what the trigger is?
Yeah. It's. I guess it's a sign of personal insecurity or self-doubt.
Well, it could be anything, but it's a great word.
If you understand the dynamic of what's going on,
and what they're saying to you is pressing that trigger
is inappropriate. You know they're acting inappropriately. You know they're saying you know what they're going to say. They've said it before. You know, but if they're still triggering you, if they're still draining you of energy, if you're still kind of wanting to run a mile from them, it's because they are rattling a seed of a lie within you, within your belief system about either you or you in relation to the world or your capabilities. The three lies. I'm not good enough. I can't cope. I'm unlovable. They are triggering that with you, because if you didn't have any of those lies within your belief system, you wouldn't get triggered. It would be like water off a duck's back, because you know what they're going to say. They've always said it. They keep on saying it.
Exactly. That's my point. And I like the word trigger. Go and find what the trigger is. Mm-hmm. That's your job. That's the golden thread. We've got lots of videos on the golden thread. Yeah. Ask yourself, if it's your brother, mom, sister, uncle, auntie, next door neighbor, and they're saying something to your husband, wife, and they say something to you, and you get that red light, then that's for you feeling to find. Yeah. You to do the golden thread. Why? Yeah. Why? It will always go down, as Alex has just said, to one of the three lies. I'm not good enough. I can't cope. I'm unlovable. That is not the truth. That is not the truth. Somewhere you are looking for external validation to prove something that is not truthful. It will never work. You're chasing, like the donkey chasing the carrot. It will never work. And in a way, so here comes a big switch. You know what? Those negative people saying those negative things to you, I'll correct that. Those people saying negative things to you are your greatest teachers. Yeah. They are teaching you something. They're actually helping you.
They're drawing attention awareness.
Yeah, you can go back and go, okay, so when they said this, you'll never make nothing of your life, why go back? Let's find out why that triggered something in me. What is it in my belief system that I believe what they've just said is the truth?
Okay.
Because whatever my mum said to me, I know wasn't the truth.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you've forgotten about me. Of course I haven't forgotten about your mum, but I didn't go into an argument with her. I don't need to.
It doesn't.
Because I didn't forget about her.
Because if you had self-doubt, you'd be starting to think, oh, I'm a bad son.
Exactly.
I've let her down. I'm always doing this. I'm no good at looking after people. You could go on that negative carousel of negative self-talk.
Yes.
So if someone is talking negatively to you, or if you are able to stay in Wu Wei, in balance, harmony within yourself, then you won't get any uncomfortable, painful red light feelings. You'll just experience green lights. You'll stay the same.
You'll be more in neutral, because it would be better, wouldn't it, if this person was saying, oh my God, I love you, you're so wonderful, everything you do is fantastic, aren't we happy, isn't this great, aren't the roses growing around the door nice and the bunny rabbits jumping in as in the field, and we're living in a utopian world again. But unfortunately, we don't live in that utopian world. Some people have gone through very difficult life experiences, and they haven't had the chance to change their mindset. That's what I loved about that word that Alex says. Their mind is set
They've got
in
that rigidity
one way.
we talked about
Exactly.
at the beginning. Yeah.
Now, they normally believe that being negative, so here's what I hear virtually every day when I'm working with my clients, being negative is a good idea because you're better prepared if something goes wrong. Let's think the worst case scenario, because if it goes wrong, then I'm prepared for it.
And talk about it to other people.
Exactly.
Talk about it at length. Almost like indulge
And
themselves.
that's their
in
belief.
Yeah,
I discuss this belief daily with my clients. I would say to you that is an absolutely unbalanced, untrue belief. For one thing, it affects the law of attraction, because if you think negatively, guess what you're attracting? Negative. Simple as that. You are attracting more. Remember what we did? Look at the law of attraction video. It's like looking in the mirror. And if you keep on saying to yourself and out loud to others, things are going to go wrong, this isn't going to work, I know how this is going to end out badly, you're more likely to attract that into your life. Why not come into the neutral, into the Wu Wei, and deal with things when they present themselves? When they present themselves, and deal with them authentically. So this is one of the problems why people want to be negative, because they think they're protecting themselves and they think they're protecting the people that they love. They will say, be careful, don't do this, don't do that, don't go there, don't do this, don't go up there.
Why have you done that?
And they're wanting to protect them into a little ball, like put a little ball around them. Now, you normally see this with parents and children. If you're not careful, you can overprotect a child. You cannot kind of equip them for real life, because you can be giving them all of the problems that they could encounter at school, coming home, doing this, doing that, and they get so concerned about thinking of all the negative things that happen, they forget to look at all the joyous and the happy things that can happen. And this is what you have to be very careful of. This is why this is such a big subject and touches on all of the areas that we talk about weekly.
So if we understand what you've just said about all the pitfalls of thinking negatively, law of attraction, it's certainly not helping them in any way. It's not protecting them.
No.
It's not allowing them to live a good, authentic life or reach their potential. If we understand this, and this is that negative person, or the person who's really suffering, is someone who is very close to someone who we love dearly, it's so difficult not to try and step in and kind of teach them, interfere and say, well, perhaps if you thought more positively about things, but that's not our job, is it? But it's so difficult. How do we deal with that when we love someone like your mum?
It's very difficult.
What do you do? Because otherwise it's almost like you're watching the kind of disaster unfold, the disaster of their imagination, if you like. And they're suffering. Difficult. It's not like they are actually suffering physically, affects their sleep, affects their enjoyment of life, everything. And when you love someone, it's so hard.
Yeah, you're right. It's one of the greatest spiritual lessons, as I believe. But you have to come down to the fact, the truth, the reality. You can't help somebody who doesn't want to be helped. So let me use my beautiful mama as a great example. She absolutely reveled in thinking of negative things. The best that she could say is, I told you so. She'd love that. If something didn't go right, I told you so. I knew that would happen. She forgets all the other times that she was wrong, but she'd concentrate on that time. So the only thing that you can do is to lead by example. Whether you're a mother to your children, whether you're a child to your parents, whether you're a partner, is don't let them drag you down. This is why this is spiritual. You be the best that you can be. That's your responsibility, no one else's. You honor yourself. You respect yourself. You love yourself. You can cope. You've always coped. You are an amazing, awesome person. You believe in yourself. And then you hope that they become inspired by you. And I know for a fact, even though it was really difficult for her to say it, my mum was so proud of me. I know that, but she never told me once, but I know she was. And you have to understand that the only person that will ever be accountable to you is you. You are the awesome person. You have to follow your path. And as Alex says, I accept 100% what she said. If it's someone you love, it's so difficult not to be drawn down to their level. But can I ask you, is it going to help them by you jumping in and being as negative as they are? No. Does it make it better for them? No. Does it make it better for them if you are as negative as they are? No. You're the one that's got to live your life, and you've got to keep on that positive. And this is really, really important. As I said at the beginning, one of the basic teachings, we call it CCJ. Do not criticize. Do not criticize them. Do not criticize yourself. That's why the words are very important. Don't call them a negative person or a toxic person or a vampire. Don't call them that. That's criticism. Don't be judgmental. Don't even call them a negative person. They are a person the same as you. They've gone through a different journey of you. So don't be judgmental on them, and don't compare yourself. Don't let them bring you down to their level. Do take responsibility for your life. Please listen to what I'm saying. You are awesome. Never, never, never doubt yourself. It doesn't matter whether this is your wife, husband, mother, father. This is your life. You take responsibility for it.
I really, really like that idea of just being you, not being swayed by them. And the best you can be is to set an example and be an inspiration. And if they want to take notice, then that's their choice. It's almost like you're giving the energy out there, what they choose to do with it. If they want to block it and continue on their path, that's their choice. But you've done your bit.
I'm just laughing because I just remembered one thing I said to my mum when I was trying to deal with this thing that you're talking about. I said to her once, "Mum, I love your negativity." She says, "I'm not negative. I'm the most positive person you'll ever wish to meet." And, you know, sometimes you just have to laugh about it because if their mind is set, remember, the only person that can change your mind is you. We can share, we can help, we can advise, we can do all the stuff that we do. But at the end of the day, the only person that will change your mind is you. And you have to take responsibility for that, because this is your life. This is your mind and your body, and you're in control. And so do not take your hand off that tiller of your life and live your life in what you're proud of. So make sure, for instance, if somebody's been negative to you, you've been brought up in a negative household and you've come through parents who are negative, make sure you're not negative about yourself. Because, for instance, if you're saying any of the 3 lies that Alex said, that's negative, isn't it? You're already being negative. So don't criticize them. Don't be judgmental about them. If you're doing the same for you, stop it. Stop it. The only person that you can control is you. Get your belief system right. Make sure you're living in your balance, in your flow, in your Wu Wei, whatever you want to call it. Be authentic. Follow your true self. Don't let other people affect you. Make sure you're not as bad as they are.
If I'm living with someone, say my partner, my husband, wife, is kind of cynical about a lot of things, takes a negative view on a lot of things, is it possible for me to love that person as fully as I can, compassionately as I can, but at the same time detach from the viewpoint which may be cynical or maybe having a negative viewpoint on it? Is it
Absolutely.
Can the two coexist?
Absolutely. Because you're talking about 2 different things. You're talking about love, which is a feeling. We'll have to do a video of what is love. I'd love to talk to you about what is love. So you're talking about love, which is a green light feeling. So you can love someone but disagree with them and have a different point of view. In fact, that's very healthy, because what you're talking about is loving someone and having a relationship with them. Now, if you're having a relationship with a husband or a wife and what they're saying is not balancing with what you believe, then that's about a relationship and being able to communicate and being able to talk. Now, if you can't talk and communicate with your partner, this is not about love. We're talking about relationships now. And then I would ask, relating, relationships, the core word is relating. Can you talk? I work every day with couples, every day. And I can tell you the thing that breaks down in a marriage, in a relationship, is not loving each other. No. It's the communication, the relationship. And the relationship is about being able to relate. So if you believe your partner has fallen into the trap of being constantly negative, first of all, first step, make sure you're not. Make sure you're all right. Make sure you're not CCJing them, being critical, being comparing and being judgmental. So work on yourself first, and then open the negotiations, the talk, the discussions with your partner. Now, if you can't have that discussion, have you got a relationship? Because that's what a relationship is, I mean, if you don't like something I'm saying, you should be able to say it. You don't have to say it harshly or badly. You can say, have you noticed the last few months you seem to be very negative about things?
So you're saying don't ignore or just put up with the way they are.
No, of course not.
Don't, I mean, you gave one example of a strategy is to say, I tell you what, why don't you just, I'm going to leave you with this and go out and walk the dog.
Well, that's in the height,
That's in the heat of the moment.
When someone's right in it, but sometimes they just have to sit. When somebody's crying and wailing and shouting, you just have to say,
you must then
what?
come back and have the conversation.
Exactly. You say, you know what, just get through this. Just sit with it for a moment. Let me go make a cup of tea or let me go out for a walk, and then we'll come back and then we can talk it through. Because that's the relationship. A relationship, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a colleague at work, a family member, a child, a brother, a sister. It's about communication. It's about having to communicate and being able to communicate. And if you can communicate, that's a great relationship.
So it's communicating without
being judgmental,
without stepping over that line where you're now starting to control or manipulate them.
Or being judgmental. Saying, I think you're a negative person now.
When you say communicate, you're talking about expressing your truth to them.
And listen to their truth.
Not just kind of burying it and not saying anything or walking away or, because if you do that, you're shutting off you, aren't you? For the sake of peace in the relationship, you're shutting off the essence of who you are.
But that's not peace in the relationship. The relationship is just broken down. So there's two things here, and not to go off subject, but this is very important, and we'll probably talk about these when we talk about what is love. Is one thing is to be able to communicate, is to be able to say your truth in a sympathetic way, and next thing is to listen. Listen to what the person is saying. Take it on board. Digest it. Don't just go, oh yeah, I know what you think. No, listen to what they're saying. What we say here, listen to what we're saying. Write it down if you disagree. David, I disagree when you said that about your mother. Then tell me why you disagree. Because. And then I could be wrong, and I will write back to you and say, you're right, sorry, I misspoke there, or I didn't quite mean that, or this is what I was trying to say. It's okay to have a disagreement. It's okay to have a different point of view. So listen to what someone's saying and then speak your truth. So what I find is in warring couples, they don't listen. They say something and one of them says, well, I keep saying that to you. Yeah, but I don't believe you. And we get this fighting here.
Well, this is the thing. When you're going to speak to someone or confront someone about their belief or attitude about something which doesn't marry with what you believe, it's almost like you gird your loins and you get all rigid, and then that blocks your ability to listen to their point of view, doesn't it? So it's about remaining soft and yin.
That's right, and that's why I keep on kind of trying to get you to remember the golden thread. When somebody says something, even if you disagree, it's much better to say, oh, why do you think that? Rather than saying, well, that's wrong, that's a load of rubbish. It's much better to say, well, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. So why do you think that? Try and find the reason. Let them expand the reason. That's why I'm always saying to you guys, when you're writing, don't just say you disagree with me. Mm-hmm. Say why you disagree with me. And I could be wrong and you could be wrong. It doesn't matter, because at least we're both learning. Yeah. And if we can discuss, so you listen to your partner or you listen to your mother or your father, and they say something like, oh, I don't think you're making much of your life. Mm-hmm. You say, that's interesting. So why do you think that? Mm-hmm. And then let them explain. And then they'll say something like, well, I don't know. Well, hang on a bit, Dad, you just told me I'm not making much of my life. Please tell me why you not think I'm making much of my life. And you see how that's changed the energy straight away, rather than fighting, rather than getting out the swords and having a fencing match. Okay, so we're kind of moved on to now, if someone's talking about you personally, so they're being negative about you, judgmental about you, critical about you, almost like malicious about you in some cases. Yeah. If you decide to pick the appropriate moment, confront them, question them, listen, you speak your truth, you're clear on your boundaries, but this person keeps on pretty much ignoring what you've said, ignoring the conversation, and doesn't change, keeps on coming back at you with the same judgments about you or the world, the same negative viewpoints. Then I would ask, how many times can you have that conversation? It's like, see, or do you? No, then I would ask. I would then say what you said, and I would say, now, we've spoke about this 3 times, 4 times, and you keep saying the same thing. Could you explain to me why? Either you don't understand, you disagree. What do you disagree with? So again, the golden thread, the why question, is so powerful because it gets them to talk. Because they're not stupid. They probably don't believe you. They believe you're not going to change. They believe you're going to carry on. So you've got to get past. It's almost like I sometimes think about it with my clients. It's like a hurdle. You've got to get past that first hurdle. You've got to get them talking. You're not going to change them. I can't change anybody. I don't even want to change anyone. I want the person to understand the fabric of why they think something. So if I keep on saying to you, Alex, you'll never change. Alex, you won't. I don't care what you say. You're never going to change. The question you should be asking me, well, why don't you think I will change, David? And I think actually, the person who you're confronting, their viewpoint, is probably not used to being confronted. Exactly. So the worst case scenario, I mean, I've found this, is if you confront them maybe once, twice, 3 times, they stop doing it. So they might do it to other people, but they stop doing it to you. So you've not changed them. You've not made them come round to a more positive outlook or anything like that. It's not about that. But at least they've because they kind of, once you told them 3 times, they know what they're doing. They know you're onto their game. They know they can't justify you've asked them to just, and they can't. So they actually stop and they take their negative viewpoints elsewhere to people who will listen, who will indulge them. So that's the best result, really. But what I just wanted to jump in and say, because it comes back to another basic core Wu Wei teaching: confront, not confrontation. Because normally those people, they want confrontation because they feel quite strong on confrontation. They've probably been brought up in a house full of confrontation. You probably haven't. You hate the confrontation. So they want to take it away from the issue and bring it into the confrontation because they know that they will win the point. Don't be drawn into confrontation. You can smile on your face and say, oh, so why do you believe that? See, and that's a confront rather than a confrontation. As I said at the beginning of the video, we're touching on lots of Wu Wei issues here. Confront, not confrontation. Do not go into a confrontation. Asking why, being interested in their reasons is not confrontational. It's confronting the issue. It's listening to what the other person is saying and being genuinely interested on why they think that.
And so the end result is inevitably, in some way, you have to accept, you have to drop the idea of having a perfect roses growing round the door relationship with this individual. So whether it's a parent, whether it's a son or a daughter, whether it's a brother or a sister, so someone close to you we're talking about now, you have to accept that for now, your relationship can only work in a certain way. You have to learn that, adapt, almost drop the idea of, oh, if only we could, it could be how it used to be, or if only it was how my best friend was with her daughter or her parents.
But you've gone to comparing.
So this is the comparing thing.
That's the comparing. Yeah. Oh, look, when I look at them, their relationship, haven't they? Oh, I remember how it used to be. You're comparing, CCJ. Don't do it. Yeah. The relationship is what it is at the moment. This is particularly apt, you know, when someone is going through a bad time or an illness or something like that. They may not be the person that you knew growing up. They're going through an illness. They're going through, a difficult time in their life. Why don't you live in reality and deal with what's going on right now? You have all of the skills. That's why you're a member of this community, this Facebook community of ours, and that's why you listen to these videos, because you're a spiritual, sensitive person. You have all of the skills that you need and will ever need in your life. Yeah. Nobody can give you more skills, more ways. All we can talk about is how you apply them. What is the best way to apply them? Don't let the mind take over and jump into this CCJ, comparing, being judgmental. They shouldn't do that to me. Who do they think they are? Yeah. You know, find a different way to do it that's more truthful, more spiritual, more authentic, that displays your awesomeness, that displays who you really are. That's what you should be doing. And don't let other people affect that part of you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you touched on something there. If it's someone who you're close to or you're caring for who is suffering from an illness, so is more touchy, more negative, how do you keep your Wu Wei balance? How do you keep patience? How do you keep love? How do you keep support in a very kind of challenging time or period when you're dealing with that individual? Because inevitably you will cast your mind to the relationship you once had with them, which isn't possible in that moment.
So remember, I said that there's a difference between loving someone and having a relationship with them. So you remember why you love them. If it's a mother, a father, someone, you remember what it is that you love about them. And then you find a relationship that works. So now, because of the illness, you may be their carer, for instance, and they may not even remember your name. I've got clients who their parents have got Alzheimer's. They don't even remember their name. So you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for yourself because you are a spiritual, awesome person. And you're doing this because you care, you love, you have kindness, and you're not looking for anything back. You're not doing it for what they can give you. You're doing it because you know it's right for you. And that's the most important thing. And that is what love is. Love is a feeling. Remember that you love this person, this parent, this child, and then you find the relationship that works for you in that moment, whether they're in a nursing home, whether they're in hospital, whether you're trying to look at them at home, and whether they don't, you know, I've referenced my mother a lot of times, and when she wasn't well at the end of her life, and I used to go in hospital like twice a day, and I went in one day. He said, "You haven't been in to see me for three days." I said, "Mum, I was in 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
You wasn't."
Yeah.
And you just have to smile and say, "Well, I'm here now, Mama, and I love you." And you have to have that truthfulness.
Yeah, and this is where appropriateness comes in. So in these situations where you're dealing with someone who's sick or in pain, it's not necessarily appropriate to do the confronting with them, to look for the rationale, to question their rationale. It's just about seeing the beauty of the wholeness of who that person is and having the compassion.
I would say it's more about you. Who are you? It defines you as a person, really. In those situations, those extreme situations, which I hope you're not in, but if you are in with a sick parent or a sick relative, this is defining you. You know, we talk a lot about spirituality and what makes a spiritual person and what love is and all of these things. And it's these situations that define who you are. Mm-hmm. What makes you you? What is the essence of you? The Chinese call it Shen. What is your Shen? What is that essence that makes you who you are? It's not your name. It's not the colour of your hair or the clothes you wear, the way you walk and talk. Something much deeper that we try and talk about in these videos. This is something, this Shen, this essence. And through challenging times that we've talked about, everything we've talked about today are very challenging. Wouldn't it be nice if somebody you loved you in the way that you wanted them to love you? But they don't always. And so really, the referral back, the anchor, the rock that holds you firm is the way you believe and think about yourself, your Shen, your spirit, your essence. And do you hold that true? Is that clear in your mind? Is there no equivocation there? No lies? No grey areas? Are you clear and you living your truth, regardless to what anybody else does or says to you? Remember, what other people think of me is none of my business. The most important thing is what you think of you. That's your Shen.
Great. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground there, and
That was good. There was a lot of subjects there, wasn't there?
I do hope that's given you some food for thought and some practical tips and advice on how to manage yourself first and then look at the situation differently. We had lots and lots of questions from our clients and our Facebook community members on this topic, and I'm sure we probably haven't been able to cover them all. So please, if you do have any questions or comments, please post them below. And you know, as always, we'll try to answer them for you. If you have any ideas for future video topics, again, please let us know, because we're always after wanting to know your ideas. And we look forward to seeing you very soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.